This week, in the consequences of your actions, we have got to talk about Gladys berejiklian. As you all know her, everyone's least favourite Sesame Street puppet. There's a reason we put it next to the count, because she's dating him now. Today, we're going to talk about the letter I for eye gag. Oh, they're trusting him with the letters now. Good on him. For a year straight, Gladys has cackled at Victorians and other states for not dealing with COVID as well as her, which we're going to get into later, but it really is like winning the lottery and then laughing that your nan didn't win. But I bought the ticket for you. We have News Corp, whose journalists for the last year have incessantly rallied against lockdowns, laughing as civil rights activists so much that they caused a super spreader event in the Million Germ March, which, as Kevin Rudd points out, or as I like to call him with his sporting grey beard, Sergeant Pepper. The Murdoch Empire's obviously realised, we probably shouldn't have been egging on more deaths, a clogged up hospital system, not to mention an extended lockdown, which is what they've been rallying against for the past year, so mission accomplished, muzza! So Sky News, the Game of Thrones of news channels, but more ambitious, as Game of Thrones only tried to pretend that the last 2 episodes didn't exist. That's just 2 hours they got to sweep under the rug. Sky is pretending that the last 8,760 hours didn't exist. The rest of the media, which as we all know is just Peter Costello hooked into a mind-melding device, has been uncritically worshipping berejiklian's strategy or lack thereof of dealing with COVID. They have completely failed to hold her to a decent standard, allowing her hubris to bloom more than a love for little, ugly, morally corrupt manlets, who, because he's also a barrister, his stature really does give a brand new meaning to the derogatory term for his profession of show pony. It took a year, but as soon as any real power and responsibility in the COVID crisis was handed to berejiklian, not just the bureaucrats, i.e. her decision, locking down on time, it took us just 3 weeks to go from this to this. Now, we will be going through the insane hubris that put Australia in the situation we're currently in, but before we do, how much is that guy thinking, this is the best decision I've ever made in my life. And now the whole net hates him. And you know what? It probably still is the best decision he's ever made in his life. That is his Tiananmen Square moment. Don't you reckon his other crowning achievement would be, good concreting job right there. Good, not great. But to get our heads in the main game, what a better place to start than the AFR Women's Watch special, the woman who saved Australia, who was in the right place at the right time. Ow! I wonder if right place at the right time is referring to her allowing a National Party dinner with 70 people during the beginning of this COVID outbreak. Gladys berejiklian has long been aware of the personal criticisms levelled at her by those who know her best. Workaholic, micromanager, even obsessive-compulsive are foremost among them. Yeah, being honest with yourself is the hardest person to be honest with. Methodical is how one staffer, choosing his words carefully, refers to the way she runs her office. Text messages sent at 2 a.m. are not uncommon. Oh, that is it! I renounce all of my criticisms of the press in the past. That right there is holding politicians to account. They've given her the same criticism you gave yourself when you were 16 and you were in a job interview for Muff and Break, and you told the manager that if anything, you worked too hard. What a great way to view the press. Not as some noble entity holding power to account, but a mum making a resume for their kid. You a member of the public or a manager at Cotton On, you've got 50 resumes to go through. They're all from Gladys berejiklian worded differently. At the end of that, of course you're going to think, I should probably give her a go. She seems eager. Of course you would. You've been given nothing else. If all that was on Netflix was Danos Direct, you'd think it was a masterpiece. Bad example. Danos Direct is a masterpiece. Citizen Kane. In federal political and business circles, berejiklian is hailed as the premier who more than any other helped keep the country afloat during its darkest hours since the war. Forgetting something, AFR?
Some say he causes trouble, but he only wants what's best. Some say that he's a stirrer. He says we're better than the rest. Some say he's too outspoken, but he does things his own way. Yet we all know he's made Queensland what it is today. loves her like a father. His love will never stop, because this man, this team, this party put Queensland there on top. And there's only one way to keep it there. Vote for Joe and the Nationals. There's never been a greater need.
Seriously though, I think the bushfires literally was our darkest hour since the war. And thanks to the repeated and ongoing slashing of emergency budgets by the berejiklian government, we were wearing masks before it was cool. If only she kept the trend going. But the key words to remember out of all of that are business circles. This article is nothing but the business community thanking Gladys for being completely subservient to the business community, praising her for the servant leadership she showed, which I know he was trying to reference Covey there, but what a great double entendre as, quote, he recounts asking her at the start of the crisis what should business do to help. She thought about it for a while and said, "The best thing you can do is give me a list of what business needs." Her answer was, "What's important for you is important for me." God, I would love to see them ask key bureaucrats at New South Wales Health what Gladys said to them at the start of the pandemic. What's important to you means f*** all to me. I let in the plague ship. Sometimes you just have to sit back and truly marvel at how insane the press actually is. They're celebrating public servants mutating into business servants. And as Michael West pointed out, it's this transformation from public servant to business servant that has put New South Wales into lockdown for over a month, and at this rate probably 800 more months to follow, as opposed to the other states who had a quick 3-day lockdown. And why? Why are you locked down at home with no income support for months? Pretty much because Jerry Harvey shuddered at the idea of people maybe not being pressured into buying a 10-year warranty on this chair for 3 days. Now, I'm going to give Jerry Harvey a break because, like everyone else in Australia, you have to do a double take every time you look at him in the papers to determine if he's your uncle or not. But as Andrew Cannell at Sky, who credit where it's due, he actually is one of the only journos willing to hold Gladys to account. He confirms, listen...
In terms of the broader outbreak, 3 New South Wales ministers have told me last week they believe that Gladys Berejiklian did not lock down earlier because she wanted to preserve her reputation as the Premier who keeps business open.
Let that sink in. Then contrast it to this Fin Review article and then tell me that Fairfax is better than the Murdoch press, because if you really dwell on this, I mean really sit back and look at the picture being painted here. The reasons we're in lockdown is not just because she serves the business community, it goes deeper than that. It's also because she builds her ego around serving the business community. It's then inflamed by a paper that is unashamedly designed to serve the business community, and because she's so inoculated by this bubble of greedy hogs slapping each other on the back for their superior knowledge to health experts about containing pandemics, what with their years of expertise in churning out shit duplexes, that she infuriatingly has this unchecked streak of self-proclaimed humility, which if you do hang around millionaires that wear hats advertising that they're millionaires on their heads, you are comparatively #humble, yeah. But if you were really as humble as Berejiklian purports to be, and you had the press writing articles sycophantic enough to say that you single-handedly saved Australia, wouldn't you say, this is f***ing nuts? Of course I didn't save Australia. I'm luckier than a dog that got picked up from the pound the day before I got the needle. Have you forgotten that my government led in a ship riddled with f***ing COVID? I'd say, contrary to this AFR article, her worst trait isn't that she's too competent. I'd say that she's clearly suffering from illusory superiority, boasting as late as May 29 that because she's such a genius, she's outsmarted COVID with her banking skills, and New South Wales will never go into lockdown again.
We made sure that we had the systems in place to be able to weather whatever came our way so that we would never go into lockdown again.
Then when it actually does rest on her shoulders, when she actually was in the right place at the right time and could have saved Australia depending on how quick she locked down, bam. Now look, I share too much DNA with housewives to ever say a bad word about Kyle and Jack, but listen to what Gladys said and try not to vomit.
So I heard that Victoria wants some of our Pfizer vaccines. They're not getting it.
No, I can't.
Good.
The feds are giving them more anyway.
Okay, so they're not coming from New South Wales.
No, the federal government has from last week given them more AstraZeneca, I think. But
why does everyone look to us to save their own stupid decisions?
I can't comment on that.
Yet not even 2 months later, she's begging Victoria for their vaccines. To borrow a phrase from Sky News' Paul Murray, who, as we've already established, has been doing an exemplary job of covering COVID over the last year, each way Glado. As always, Sky News presenting a general theme that is much more preferable to Fairfax, as at least it's funny. Watch this clip from Ray Hadley's version of Saddam Hussein's body double, Chris Smith.
Good to have your company on a bad day for freedom in some parts of Australia today. The halo above Gladys Berejiklian may not have fallen completely today, but it's definitely on the way down. The New South Wales Premier broke the hearts of business people, parents with school-aged children who are about to return, and the general community, saying an extended lockdown will somehow prevent more lockdowns.
Now watch this clip from just after the protest.
How dumb and dangerous are those that turned up to Saturday's lockdown rallies in Sydney and Melbourne? They called for freedom and an end to lockdowns, but in Sydney in particular, in the middle of another outbreak, all they did was contribute to the probability of a lockdown extension. As my son would say, dur and double dur.
Now even better than that, watch this clip from the same day.
This has really made you angry, hasn't it? The way we've been forced to do as we're told, and how the democracy that we once cherished is something that we've put aside for the time being almost.
Keep in mind, he's interviewing George Christensen, who organised one of the anti-lockdown protests. And that, ladies and gentlemen, to quote Bruce Hornsby, is just the way it is. If you're a politician or a media figure that serves the elite, you could stir up a super spreader event. You could deliberately avert a 3-day lockdown just so Spotlight can stay open for 3 more days. Nothing happens to you. You can just disavow the protesters the next day because it's their fault, isn't it? It's the out-of-work tradie who was frustrated and went to the protest, which I'm guessing he didn't even know he couldn't go to due to the terrible public health messaging from Gladys, ScoMo and News Corp, but he'll get the book thrown at him by those very same institutions that egged him on. I guess shit just rolls downhill, eh? Not that I think that the protesters are right, I don't think they are. Apart from this legend. Free speech, straight from the horse's mouth! That man is officially Australia's answer to Jake Paul. He's super famous, everyone hates him. Let's make sure the next time we see him is live on Main Event, Fists of Freedom versus Skippy. My fists don't care about your feelings. But the real takeaway I want you to get from this video is that, yeah, the protesters suck. But the people that deserve the majority of the public's ire and blame aren't the protesters. They're the politicians and media figures that cause the protests. It's the New South Wales police who refuse to hold everyone to the same standard, refusing to go after the politically connected rule breakers, thus failing abysmally to quote Gladys herself,
to do the right thing.
In short, thank Koala Killer for half of Australia being in lockdown now. Anyway, seeing as this is about Koala Killer, just to announce, a while back we said that shirt sales from the Koala Republic shirt would be going to the Foundation for Australia's Most Endangered. Look at how cheap it is to, in all likelihood, save an entire species. You can get a monitoring program up and running for 50 grand. We can cover that. Surely, before all the costs are taken out of the shirt, you guys raise like 5 grand from one shout out. There you go. We're just going to chuck the entire gross in. Chuck that at the numbat. Off you go, little buddy. You're fine. Anyway, because I just personally saved numbats, I want you to match me. Donate to the Kangaroo Island Dunart program. See if you can get it to 50k. Like and subscribe if you think that Gladys's new boyfriend looks more like a rat than the Kangaroo Island Dunart.
Please share and comment below. Comment.
But the State of Origin starts next week. I hope you guys are promoting Go the Blues. Like, seriously, if there was one year we had to beat the Maroons, it's this year. You're like, seriously.
Is that like an FU to...
No, I'm just saying.
Hey, how come Three Chins gets more money than you? I saw the Premier's thing.
I don't know who you're talking about. Please be respectful, guys.
Oh, well, sorry. What's her name?
Anna Palaszczuk.
Yeah, she gets more money than you.
Yeah, I know.
That's outrageous.
I just saw the list. I didn't know that.
Read the list out. Dan Andrews from Victoria. Does he get the most?
He gets the most on 400.
And he's not even at work.
41,000.
He's bunging on us.
Then,
I fell over.
And then you've got Anastasia, who's on 427,000.
Yeah.
Then you go to South Australia on 418.
How embarrassing.
Then you're after South Australia on 407.
What's going on there?
You should be top.
Yeah, you run the biggest state. We're taking care of everyone else. Look, you shrug it off like whatever.
Don't
but
shrug it
you-
off,
do
Gladys.
You need me to
You are
manage you?
getting. You need to
Yeah,
be
but
paid
if I
more.
wanted to earn money, I wouldn't be in politics.
But it's not. It's the principle.
That's true. You do it for the love of what you do.
See, this is why she does so well, and people trust and believe in the Premier because she's not in it for herself.
Kyle,
You're very
move
unlike.
on. Can you just move on, please? Oh my gosh, you gave me coffee with your faces on it.
Yeah, well, that's how you promote yourself and how you get top dollar. You need to have a chat with us. You need to have a chat off the air. Like.